What's up, family? Welcome back to the Stop Sinking Show, where we go from struggle to flow. There are no shortages of stories, tales of victories, where a person rose to greatness, touched the heights of heaven after having tasted a version of their own hell. Almost to the point where hitting rock bottom seems attractive. And of course, we are fooled by randomness because we don't hear the stories of the people who stayed at rock bottom, who didn't make it out. The only people on podcasts, writing books, being interviewed, and having a large following are those who actually made their way out of rock bottom. So that leaves two questions in my mind. How do I know if I indeed have hit rock bottom? And how do I use it to be the propellant for my success so I too can tell the story of triumph? Now, I can't debate the reality of rock bottoms. They exist. And a part of me wants to believe that the harder and lower someone's rock bottom is, the higher they can go. Carl Jung aptly puts this as, no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Just the basic idea of potential energy being stored up, like a spring that has been loaded and weighed down with all of its tension. When it is released, it erupts with might, launching anything that was being held down. Now, of course, statistically speaking, this is not a guarantee, of course. Maybe the spring breaks and bends under the continual force and loses all of its actuating force. Maybe it's been pressed down to rock bottom for so long that it learns that its new shape is a flattened coil. Even the saying, what goes up must come down, does not take into account escape velocity. Maybe the force that it's being pushed up or pushed down by is much greater than its ability to recover, or for any other energy to pull it back down, like gravity. That obviously happens with humans too, or else every rock bottom story would have had a top of the mountain ending. So the power of rock bottoms exist, but how do you make sure that you benefit from them? How do you make sure that you reach for heaven from that hell? And the first thing that occurred to me in keeping in line with the theme of accountability is that rock bottoms are created by us. And not to blame ourselves, but to look at this in the most productive light. The energy that creates rock bottoms in our lives is creative energy. Destruction is creative energy. The whole domain of chaos is that of creative potential, unlimited potential. And to negotiate with it and to summon it into some form of order is to tend with that creative, chaotic energy, to hone it, to tame it, to give it some constraints and structure. JP would say, only when crisis beckons, the birth of the hero is even necessary. Without the prerequisite chaos, without the rock bottom, maybe there isn't a pressing need for the hero within you to be born. It's the inherent reason for why rock bottoms feel so attractive, why chaos is so magnetic. Because it holds potential within it. Only place you can go from there is up. But many of us are consumed by the monster that it is instead of confronting it. So while you are creating destruction, how do you know if you have created enough? That you have had enough chaos, enough disorder, enough dismantling and demolition, enough devastation? How do you know you're not just on your bottom and you're actually on your rock bottom? And the only logical answer that I have found was from Rich Roll, who said, is that your rock bottom is what you decide it to be. You can always go lower, get worse, go further into the abyss, deeper into the void. That's always an option. One of the most potent questions I've heard asked of someone trying to change something about their life is, do you actually need to get worse before you can get better? Do you actually need to stay the same longer before you can change? Because sometimes that's a reality check we need to sit with. Maybe being 250 pounds isn't bad enough for you yet. Maybe you have to let yourself get to 300 or 350 before your identity kicks in and says you are better than this. Maybe your identity isn't threatened enough yet at 250. Maybe it doesn't feel the risk that all is lost when only $2,000 is left in your account. Maybe you need to see yourself go down into negatives before you can kick into gear. Maybe your addiction has only taken over 90% of yourself and you still aren't scared straight by it until it takes over your life by 100%. You get to choose your rock bottom. For some, maybe they have to see themselves go homeless, live in their car, live under a bridge, be rid of every working relationship in their life before they decide to make a change. Really, there is no universal rock bottom moment. What could have awakened someone else at 40% loss might require you to go through 140%, drowning an inch away from death. You get to choose. Even if you don't realize you are making the choice, you are the choice. The length you let it go is the choice. Much of it is your own thermostat, your own identity, what you allow yourself to accept, what you allow yourself to get away with. No one else can determine that for you. And there is no universal standard for your own personal identity and your own self-worth. You must contend with that yourself. Go back to episode 36, Identity Illusion, to hear more about how your identity and the personal thermostat affects where you end up being in life. We regress to the mean, the average of what we believe of ourselves, of what we are willing to accept. And maybe your average is better than the 250 pounds that you're currently at. Maybe it's 200 pounds, but maybe your identity isn't fully threatened yet by the extra 50 pounds overweight. Maybe the heat isn't turned up enough yet for you to take it seriously until you let yourself slide to 100 pounds overweight or beyond. But just know, whatever that number over your average, your mean is just as arbitrary as any other number. Not some empirical set point designed by the gods. It's how much suffering you decide to take. It's your own making. It's whatever you choose it to be, your own creation of hell that you dip down to get a taste of what it's like there, to hopefully give you enough activating force to climb back up out of it. Just don't stay there too long. And if it is your choice, then it would waste less time and less of your energy if you decided for it to be earlier than complete and utter destruction. We change when the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of discomfort and change. When the pain of your circumstances exceeds the fear of finally doing something different. And while I don't know how to have you or myself put a milestone, a landmark at any earlier point, so that I can just call that spot to be enough pain that can propel me into change faster than from that spot without actually going through more pain. What I can say though is that the chances are you already are in that much pain, but we have had too many aids to distract us away from feeling that pain. So you don't feel it fully. So that every time you numb away that pain, you numb away its activating energy to rid you of it altogether. Now, while that next social media post, YouTube video, bag of chips, show, or lust might take away your pain temporarily, it's also numbing away the connection you have in the pain that you have already that can just awaken you today. So the real challenge that we create for ourselves as a collective is that our rock bottoms have to get worse. They have to get louder and more unbearable so that they can pierce through even that noise, even those distractions, even the attempts to numb, The rock bottoms have to become so painful that even your distractions provide no help and no relaxation and relief. And while that doesn't necessarily have to be the case, we are making it so by not sitting with the pain that we already have, by not looking around and feeling the depth of hell we have already created, by not planting a flag almost anywhere and claiming, this is my rock bottom and a point of no return. And so my two questions are answered by one. How do I know if I indeed have hit rock bottom? And how do I make sure that I am one of the ones who have a story of victory from it? The answer to which is simple. You decide when, how deep below, and how far up you want to go. How much worse you want it to get before you get better. The rock bottom itself doesn't care. It's happy to have you as long as you would like. You're welcome to pitch a tent, burrow a hole, and keep digging. You decide. I love you, family. Stay true always. I'll see you on the next show.